Hey guys, what's going on? Shaw here, and today we are going to be talking about Brewmaster Monk just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. I just want to briefly go over some of the talents and what I've been enjoying and what I haven't been enjoying about the Monk. Now, I've made a lot of comments about my Monk on Twitch while streaming, but I haven't obviously talked about it in a video yet, so that's what we're going to be doing here today. If you've been following beta at all, there is a couple of bugs, as you can see here with dragon riding, but there's also a bunch of bugs with the talents and how they work currently, so I'm going to kind of go over that in this video, what I'm liking about Monk and what I'm not liking about Monk. So let's try to get to a cool spot and I will talk about this. See, it is actually sending me backwards, which is great. So first and foremost, what I'm liking about Monk is that it's pretty much same old, same old. So if you enjoy Monk gameplay, you're probably going to actually enjoy how Brewmaster is going to work in Dragonflight. Now, they're giving us a ton of cool abilities, but unfortunately, they kind of overdid, in my opinion, the amount of abilities that they're actually giving us. And we're going to actually park ourselves right over here, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay. Nice little rock next to this sleeping wild proto drake. All right, so if we open up the talent page, we're actually going to see a couple of interesting things. Now, to ignore this, I was just messing around with some talents. But if we take a look at the base tree, we can see that there's some odd choices with roll being over on the left-hand side. Now, originally, I thought you had to go Soothing Mist to get roll, but this isn't the case. This is just giving you an additional charge of roll and or chi torpedo. So if you want that second charge, you'll have to play with this, or you can play with celerity down here. This is kind of a weird choice, but if you don't want to take Soothing Mist or roll, you don't have to. You can get rid of these, which gives you a little bit more talents down here, but you won't have access to things like Tiger Tail Sweep, which is a little disappointing because having a faster leg sweep and a longer range on leg sweep is kind of a nice little perk. So locking a few of these talents behind Soothing Mist is a little troll. I wish maybe they're able to access them a little bit lower, but that's fine. The base tree has a lot of cool things. We have things like paralysis. We have access to detox pretty easily. We also have just kind of calming presence, which is reduced damage. We're seeing things like Fort Brew. We're getting access to a lot of extra defensives now, which we didn't originally in Shadowlands, where we have now Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic, which is just super nice, you know? We still have access to things like Fort Brew. And what's also nice about Fort Brew is you can either reduce the cooldown even further by an additional 2 minutes, or you can have it increase your dodge and armor as well. So kind of a nice little flavor here depending on what you might need, whether it's you're taking a ton of physical hits or you just want to be able to have more efficient stagger more often. So all in all, pretty great. We have a lot of choices right out the gate, as well as more points coming to us as we level to kind of go into a couple more niche things. Unfortunately, what I'm a little sad about is that Chi Wave and Chi Burst are a little bit down the left side of the tree, which requires us to kind of play some Vivify talents, which is a little weird. There is an instant cast Vivify, which is kind of nice, but you're gonna have to take those to get down towards the bottom of the tree, or at least a Chi Wave, Chi Burst. But that gets me into my kind of larger issue, is even if you were going into Chi Wave or Chi Burst, you kind of have to button bloat. And what I mean by that is you end up with a ton of keybinds. You can see that my bars are completely full down here and on the side, where on my other tanks that I've tested so far, you don't even have this many keybinds. So I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but it makes the rotation feel super clunky. You'll go into a pull in a dungeon, and while you kind of start with your normal rotation, going from a Keg Smash into a Breath of Fire, all of a sudden your rotation becomes a lot more complex because you have things like Rising Sun Kick. You have more cooldowns if you decide to play Bone Dust Brew and Weapons of Order. If you're playing Rushing Jade Wind and Chi Burst or Chi Wave, you have just a ton of buttons that you normally didn't have to hit. You still have Blackout Kick, you still have Tiger Palm. If you decide to go all the way down into the regular class tree for Summon White's Tiger Statue, it just makes it super bloated, and you kind of fall behind on your rotation, which then kind of desyncs and disjoints your rotation in general. So it kind of actually feels worse to play without picking or without leaving those talents alone. And yeah, you can leave them alone, but then you're missing out on either, damage or healing or utility because you're not taking these talents. So that's kind of my biggest frustration. So for example, I did go all the way down to summon White Tiger statue, but I could remove this and then I could go into some Vivify points here and eventually go for Chi Wave and Chi Burst, but eventually I'm just going to end up in the same spot where now I have an extra Keybind. Now, if we come over to the right side of the tree, you're kind of seeing the basic talents that we've already had access to. So if we clear our tree, you are going to see the Keg Smash still, you're going to see Stagger. These are four, you have to take these as a Brewmaster monk. After that, you have Shuffle and Purify. You should probably be taking both of these. And then you're seeing a return of like Healing Elixir, which is fairly underwhelming. I can't imagine a lot of scenarios where you need this, but what's nice is you don't have to take it. You could take other talents and still access these parts of the tree pretty easily, which is a critique I had about the Guardian Druid tree. But you can go into maybe Hit Scheme, you can then maybe go into either Special Delivery or Rushing Jade Wind, which again, love Rushing Jade Wind, but unfortunately with the button bloating, it might just be better to go Special Delivery. But for now, we are going to go Rushing Jade Wind, and then you have to pick up one more choice. Quick Sip, unfortunately, is super underwhelming, and Healing Elixir just isn't that practical, so more than likely we're just going to go for Gift of the Ox. Gift of the Ox is something that Brewmasters are used to playing anyway, so more than likely we'll just be taking both of these. Now, unfortunately, the start of the tree is a little lackluster. You're seeing like Graceful Exit, so after you successfully dodge, you gain 5% movement speed, like kind of underwhelming. You're also seeing Staggering Strikes, which is something that we had back in BFA, but it's once again, like just underwhelming. You also have Celestial Flames, which has a chance to coach you in flames, and then your Spinning Crane Kick applies Breath of Fire. This is kind of cool, but again, there's some better options and better Breath of Uptime later in the tree. So we're going to probably go into Celestial Brew, which again is then a rank 2 Celestial Brew based on Purified damage. We're definitely going to want Purifying Brew, and then this is where the tree kind of starts to open up a little bit. On the right hand side, we're seeing like the return of Zen Meditation. Now, this was an ability that we've always had, but you're also going to have Fundamental Observation, which means Zen Med has a reduced cooldown and isn't going to get canceled when you move or are hit by a melee attack, which is really what made Brewmasters really strong in Legion, and they took this away from us going into BFA. So having access to this again makes them a pretty strong tank when it comes to both Raid and Mythic Plus, because now you could just sit in Zen Med and take really good reduced damage. Zen Meditation, if you weren't familiar, is a 60% DR for 8 seconds, which is kind of insane. And because you're kind of going into the Zen Med here, you can also grab your Clash if you want to. And then again, this really opens the bottom half of the tree for a lot of like different class flavors. So again, all in all, just so far like a really good class tree. We have just upgraded Fortifying Brew. We have Salsabeam Strength, which Keg Smash resets the cooldown of Breath of Fire. So basically what this allows is you always can have Breath of Fire uptime, which is just amazing. You can also take Scalding Brew, which is a popular conduit that we saw back in, in Shadowlands, but we'll probably, I kind of like the idea of Salsabeam Strength. There's a few other things that we need to kind of take in here. We can probably go for like Clash, for example, for Mythic Plus. Probably want to take Nizao for extra damage, extra utility, extra defensive. And then you'll see things like, Black Axe Brew, but Bob and Weave is just so strong. And then again, like there's some single target choices down here. There's going to be some AoE and defensive abilities here. I really like the idea of the Guy Plin's Imperial Brew, which when you purify, it instantly heals you for the amount of stagger damage you actually dropped. So these kind of defensive abilities feel so good to play with. And then once again, we're just kind of seeing this return of a lot of like popular talents, popular conduit choices like Walk with the Ox. You're seeing some legendaries like Charred Passions come back around, which means we're going to actually be able to like have good single target damage by using, Breath of Fire ignites your right leg in flame, causing your next Blackout Kick and Spinning Crane Kick to deal 100% additional damage as fire, and refresh the duration of Breath of Fire on your target. Kind of cool if you're looking for that big uptime. It feels a little odd to use with Salsabims, because instead of reapplying, it's like you're already resetting the cooldown of Breath with Keg Smash, so you're not really extending, you're just getting additional damage. But like Dragonfire Brew is really interesting, especially in like higher keys. So based on your level of stagger, you're going to have increased damage from your Breath of Fire, and it's going to like tick again, and it's going to be constantly reset. So like Dragonfire Brew is super cool to play with. We have things like High Tolerance coming back for that Giga Haste. And then we have Bone Dust Brew. Bone Dust Brew is a thing that I really liked, but then you also have Weapons of Order. Just overall, like really good options. My only complaint with Brewmaster currently, like I said before, was kind of the button bloating. They gave us a lot of cool abilities, but because you have so many cool abilities, and if you try to get to all of those abilities, you can, but you're going to have too many buttons to actually play. Simple solution, you know, play special delivery. You know, maybe don't play Chi Wave, Chi Burst, but again, like, you're going to be losing out on a lot there. So it's like, you want to take them. You could take passive options, but it's not going to fix all the problems. I'm just not sure really if there's a good fix outside of like removing them, but I don't think a lot of players would like to see those kind of things removed. So in the meantime, this is what Monk's looking like. You've probably seen some clips of my gameplay as well. Again, I'm only level 62, so I've only played with a handful of these challenges in dungeons, but overall, feels great, but it feels the same, if that makes sense. So hope you guys enjoyed this kind of like walkthrough / preview for the Brewmaster Monk. Very strong defensive tank. Offensive department needs a little bit of work, but I think that mostly comes down to like the ebb and flow of the rotation. It's very clunky. If you guys want to see me stream live on Twitch, check out, you know, my Twitch channel, links down below. And then there's a Discord down there as well where we have, you know, talks, and you'll get notified when I post videos and content, especially behind the scenes content. Huge shout out to all my patrons. Thank you guys so much for the support. I can't thank you guys enough. It lets me do stuff like this more than I would regularly get to do. So hope you guys are all staying happy, healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care.